TGIF. Hope you all have had a wonderful week. I know you are ready for the weekend to begin. So, welcome to the Just Ask Char advice channel. We will be getting started very soon. So get comfortable, get ready, and relax. We sincerely thank you all for your support. This channel is sponsored by you, the subscribers. When you want to hear another perspective for yourself or a friend, then just send an email for advice to JustAskChar@gmail.com. All right, we are ready to get this show started. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend. There will always be a perspective or some advice that someone can benefit from and use. Now, here's your host of the show, Char Willie.
Greetings, welcome, TGIF, and all of that good stuff. How are you, everyone? I hope you are doing well. Hope you had a great week. And yeah, we had some summer temperatures here in Chicago. Ha ha ha. You know who you are, that you like to tease me. We had 60 degrees. Oh, yeah. I think it got up to like 62, I think it was. Something like that. But whichever way it was 60, and it was hot up in this apartment. I was burning. Flames, I tell you, flames. It's just too much. Too much, in the words of Vonda. But anyway, the week is over. We can begin with the weekend. Oh, yeah. And I don't see Don Teasy. He must be taking it easy. He's still celebrating his birthday, so I understand that. But I just wanted to actually say a wonderful happy birthday to Don Teasy. And I hope he's having a good time wherever he is. All right? So enjoy wherever you are, Don Teasy. Enjoy. Happy birthday! All right. There he is, Mr. America. There he is. Happy birthday to you. All right. Okay, what's been going on? I know a few things that's been happening. I haven't really been all in the news, but since Crew came in and he mentioned stimulus check, I had a few minutes before I pushed the start button. So I'll just mention a couple of things to you. Let's see, we have the stimulus checks Some people start receiving theirs. And just to let you know that if you have creditors, they can actually seize your check. If you didn't know, now you know. And that's probably because now this one isn't just the regular stimulus check where you have to pay it back and pay taxes on it. So they can come after that $1,400, just to let you know. So there you go. What else have I found out? My quick search tells me that George Floyd family has received a settlement, and we kind of know how that goes. Once the family signs off on a settlement, mm, well, you kind of know that the guilty party is kind of found not guilty. Yeah, I always found that to be the trade-off. So we'll see what happens. Keep your eyes open, everyone. And the last thing I'll mention is Netflix cracking down on sharing passwords. Just say it ain't so. Everybody like a hookup. I just don't think it's fair. Why would they? Why? I, I like a hookup. Everyone likes a hookup. How dare they? So I don't know if they're gonna go by IP addresses and all that stuff, and who knows. But I'm gonna tell you one thing: they're gonna lose some business. They will. I promise you. It's not gonna work out like they think it's gonna work out. But that's okay. You go ahead on Netflix and see what happens. I promise you. I predict the future. I got a crystal ball when it comes down to that. Yeah. And tonight will be a serious night with the content because I have some questions. I don't expect everyone to have an answer. I don't even have an answer. No one has all the answers. You would actually have to ask particular people, and we'll get into that a little later. Okay, so without further ado, we have to bring up and I ask you all to stand up, raise your hands in the air, and raise them like you just don't care. You know why? Because the lovely, the wonderful, the beautiful, Classic Ruby, everybody. Classic Ruby, everybody. Stand up. Stand up.
Lord, y'all, if y'all saw me on camera, you would laugh. Because when that happens, I put my arms out, I smile, I bow. Like you would swear, I think everyone can see me. Yep, yep, that's right. That's right. I am that much in a big ego. Such a huge ego. Sorry, I forgot it. It's not a Wednesday. But you know, Shaw, I gotta say, before I even say good evening, I was a little insulted. You said
Uh-oh.
nobody has all the answers. Ruby always has all the answers. Come on, girl. You forget about me or something?
I
Come on,
didn't.
come
I actually thought about you. I said, you know what? I don't even think Ruby has the answers.
on.
I really don't. Not on this one. I really
Mm,
don't. But I
okay.
bet you can get very close to it.
We all know I'm gonna try. So
Oh, yeah.
right?
This right. This is your expertise here when it comes down to psychology and the way of thinking. So I'm looking forward to it.
Ooh,
And like I said, it is a serious. I find it to be serious. I don't find a lot of people speaking of this matter
okay.
of this young man's suicide, and
Mm.
um, I just really want to speak on it. I think it's important
Oh yeah.
because people are affected, and this is young people. I don't not sure how this young man how old he was, but he was young, and I just like some answers as much as possible. Again, if not, I'll go
Mm.
with just a discussion, and I really appreciate if people join in on the discussion.
Oh yeah. I mean, suicide is a deep one. I know for me personally, not just with my subspecialty, but also suicide has personally affected my life. Whereas in my sister's mom committed suicide when she was 12. So it's definitely one that this topic comes near and dear to my heart. So, whew, okay, let's do it. Mm.
All right, let's do it, good people. All right, so I'll share my screen. Let's see. And that will be this particular tab. Here we go. Okay, volume up. I'll turn it up. Oh, you know what? I didn't do the volume.
Char, Char, girl, I'm about to cancel you, girl. You forgot the volume. How could you?
You know, I wanted to say they need to just have it where you have volume. Then I said no, because that will be a safety measure. So they're doing the
Mm-hmm.
right thing. It's up to me and
Mm-hmm.
us to do it right. So hey.
Right. You know, I get it, but man, it's annoying. Like, I always click the stupid box. Can't you just click it for me? And then I unclick it if I don't want it? Like, please?
Right. Exactly.
Hmm.
All right. Here we go.
What's going on, everybody? This is Renegade number 1, aka the Feminist Killer, #Logitorian. I want to talk to you guys about not having hope. And I think it's very important for you guys to realize not having hope is not being negative, it's being realistic. Every time you have hope, you find yourself, doing the same shit over and over again. You find yourself being repetitive, and my thing is, you find yourself in this incessant battle with trying to make sense of the lifestyle that you live, right? You think it's too good to be true that all women are the same. You think it's too good to be true that all women are whores, and it's true, especially in the slut culture that we live in, right? Everybody has to understand that we are in a slut culture, and it's never gonna get better. Don't care what anybody says. Don't give a fuck if you like it or not. We are in a slut culture. It doesn't matter what type of guy you are. Doesn't matter if you have your own house, you pay all your bills, you're a responsible man. No one gives a fuck about that. They don't. And so you have to understand, just go ahead and get all of it out and just become a monk. Once you become a monk, all suffering goes away. You can commit suicide if that's your option. But really, just I recommend that you just live your life, in the best way you know how, and that's with your brothers, and obviously practicing other things that will improve your mental health. I'm just telling you, there's nothing that any YouTuber can tell you that's gonna make your problems better. Go to the gym, get more money. Go to the gym, get more money. Go to the gym, get more money. That shit doesn't fucking work. I'm not trying to sell you a dream. I'm trying to keep you in reality. Part of staying in reality is getting rid of the hope complex.
Okay, I want to stop it there
Hmm.
and give a few comments.
Hmm.
And I put the link in the chat room, guys. I want to keep this tab up. I don't want to put the other one that says join a panel. I'll just put the link in there, and then you can join a panel and discuss if you like.
Hmm.
All right. Let's see. And welcome, She. Nice to see you. All right. So what we've heard so far, the young man has said that no hope. There's just no such thing as hope.
Hmm.
He also goes into, and this is my opinion, the next thing that why there's no hope, and that's because of women. He said that all of them or I'll just use the word no good. It's not going to get any better because of the culture. No one cares about you. So his suggestion is really two things: become a monk. That way, all your suffering goes away, or commit suicide. And then the last thing before I pause it, he says, going to the gym and getting money, which is self improvement, doesn't work. When I heard these things, I hear a variation of what he said, in different places sometimes.
Mhm.
And the common denominator is women. Now, I'm not certain what the young man has gone through, because those are the questions that I always like to know. Like, when did this start that you form this opinion? That's always important to me. When did this begin? And you have to actually ask someone directly. And I was thinking, if I spoke with this young man, if he actually written me a letter for advice, what would our conversation be? Would I get those answers from him, if I was to ask him directly? When did this start? When did you form this opinion that makes it so true that you give that information to others? And I'll just pause right there and let you guys chime in. Welcome, Vonda.
Hey, girl.
Hey, Ruby.
Um,
Hey, Shar. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys.
Always a
Anytime.
pleasure. Now let me chime in real quick before Ms. Vonda gives her 2 cents. I'm gonna say a couple things. The first thing I'm gonna say is that, okay, and this it's let me just say it. I'm gonna stop qualifying it. I don't think his problem was women. I think that this was his generalized perspective on life. And the reason why is because I think that he was suffering from a extreme case of major depressive disorder. I don't know if it was diagnosed or not. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times in our community, because we reject psychology, it goes undiagnosed. And literally, I'm not just saying that because he committed suicide, so it's an easy thing to jump to. I guess he was depressed. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
because of some of the things he said, very
Okay.
specifically. So I'm gonna give you guys now. I don't really like the way that the DSM-5 talks about the different criteria, because it used to be you have to have two of these criteria, two of these symptoms, and then an additional however many from a list of it. The list was bigger. The DSM-5 now has made it a little bit of a shorter list, but the two things that you have to have in order to be diagnosed with clinical depression, you have to have a depressed mood. Now, in our community, that can also present as an irritable mood. But what a depressed mood means, people think that means sad. Doesn't mean sad. It means lower. It's almost like you have less connection to
Mm-hmm.
feeling of any kind, right? So, the second thing is diminished interest or loss of pleasure in almost all activities, and that's called anhedonia. Now, why is this important? Because if you think about it, right, our life is all about ups and downs, highs and lows. Life is tough, right? Life is hard, but we have moments of extreme emotion that remind us we're alive. Even if it's hard and we go through anger and sadness and blah, 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 and it's just like these pops of emotion. But in depression, you actually don't really go through any of that. You almost feel empty or hollow to a certain extent. Um, Now, and the worst part about that is if you don't feel pleasure, right, then like everything becomes very hopeless, because what is hope? Hope is, the feeling that in the future we're going to feel good. But if we never
Yeah.
feel good And like we've lost the ability to connect to the feeling of good, and we don't understand that there's a medical component to this, right? Then we think it is about the world around us. It's about the situation. Another thing that depression makes you do, and this is it actually, he's right about this, which is crazy. Depression makes you hyper realistic. Now, most people think that they're realists, right? The not optimist, I'm realistic because I know bad things happen and whatever. No, depression makes you hyper realistic. And hyper realism is not actually a good thing. It's not a healthy thing. It's not a human thing. Because if we actually just sat there and stewed and functioned solely on what was just realistic, why would we bother? And that's ultimately what ends up happening with depression a lot of times, right? Is people are stewing in the realism of things. Even if you find a wife, it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be this. It's never going to be that. Even if you find a job, you're never going to love it. You're never going to this. But like, and it's all true stuff, but you're piling all of it on together, piling all of those realities on together. And it's like there's no hope built into it. There's no happiness built into it. There's no joy built into it. And you don't get, pride triggered or accomplishment triggered. All those things stop happening for you. So I was listening to what he was running down. And yes, he was applying it to women, because that's where kind of like he targeted. But I think that this is just the way he felt about life. And so he said, well, it must be because of my women troubles. But if we probably asked about other things, work, family, everything, he probably would have expressed the same things, because he kept expressing things that are like, wow, this is textbook major depressive disorder.
Okay. Vonda, you like to chime in?
Now, when it comes to suicide, suicide is so serious because it involves a death. And once you're dead, that's it. Everything stops. Doesn't matter how great you were before that. And not saying it doesn't, it does. But once your life stops, you stop breathing, it's over. So suicide is very important, and you can never think that it's not going to happen. And, time and time again, we have these situations and we have these individuals, and we say, you know what? They said this and they said that, but no one thought, well, I wonder if they, they might, be considering suicide. It's like we always tell ourselves that, no, they're not thinking that. And I've found myself doing that before. Well, I've been in situations where I've had to deal, with those situations. And, I didn't think that that's what they were talking about, but I could not tell myself that and be comfortable with it, because, people, when they're considering suicide, it's a very desperate act. Although it's very final, it's very desperate, in that they don't feel like there's any other, solution to this problem other than their demise, their death.
Yes.
So it should never be overlooked. It should never be, taken lightly. And, all precautions and emergencies, alarms, whatever should be, lifted when it comes to that. It just means that you're going to save this person for this moment, because if a person has it in their mind that they want to die, they'll eventually succeed.
Yeah. Ruby, I just wanted to point out that I remember some of the points that you mentioned. I remember hearing that. I don't know where, if I read it or I don't know. I don't remember, but I remember hearing some of it. And as far as what you're pointing at, I agree with you, and that's why I have questions that I know I can't get answered. Because when I went to the channel, there was a lot when it came down to women, but there was other things too. So as far as the balance, that's something I will never know. And before we move on, we have Sheed, and he wants to speak. Welcome.
Oh,
How are you?
hey.
She, how are
Nice
you?
to see you, she.
Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, I haven't seen y'all in a long time.
Right?
I
Yeah.
started my new channel out. I thought I saved your channel, but it was the other names. Just got a
Oh,
notification when I switched over to my old channel. I was doing
okay.
something over there, and I was like, "What the world?" I was like, "I thought you lost your channel or something." But yeah, on the topic though, it's crazy. So this guy actually committed suicide.
My last follow-up, it appears to be true. I heard from a couple of guys that said they had spoke with him, they knew him, text him, used to talk to him on the phone, and then they disconnected because he disconnected from them. So that's as much information I have. I can't, go and say, well, these guys are lying, but there's more people saying it's true than not. And so that's why I felt comfortable bringing it up. Now, if it's not true, the conversation is still needed because there's a lot of things I'm going to point out and we're going to
Yeah.
discuss tonight. But I am
You
sad
just
to
pointed
hear
out.
this. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, you just pointed out another really important factor that people don't realize depression causes. It actually causes you to do this. And I actually have like a bunch of theories about why our brains do this. But when you become clinically depressed, it causes you to isolate yourself. It causes
Yes.
you to push people away or to
Mhm.
burrow away and hide from them. And then what happens is you're isolated. You isolated yourself, but your brain tells you that no one's around because they don't
Because
care
they don't
about
want
you,
to be. Exactly.
right?
Yes.
Which makes you isolate yourself more. So it's like this self-defeating cycle that just makes it worse and worse and worse. And you're not quite seeing reality, right? So it's your perception is not perceiving it as I removed myself from other people and they know I don't like to be harassed. So of course they're not calling down my phone. No, you can't see it that way. Well, they should magically jump in your head and no, actually they should keep reaching out. And so it's something that unfortunately nor people without clinical depression every day do stuff like that, right? Well, I'm distancing myself from people. I'm busy in life right now. I don't have time to chat, and you give
Yep.
them that space
Yep.
and that respect, right? So it's unfortunately it's kind of on all sides. Well, we're going to give you your space and your respect. I'm not going to harass you. You're my boy. Got mad love for you. I'm here whenever you need me. And then depression forces you to keep isolating, to never reach out, to never say, yeah, I need you. And so then afterwards, when someone does commit suicide, then the people who were there feel bad. They feel bad, like, oh man, I should have known. But
Yep.
no, you couldn't have known. You couldn't
Hmm.
have known because depressed people present just like everyone else. They don't present with like special cues that you should have known and blah blah blah.
Yes.
And
That's
they hide
correct.
it
So
very well. They hide it very, very well.
very well, incredibly.
Hmm.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
true.
it was a situation I was in, but guy I knew he was real depressed. Same, no, almost same scenario of his girlfriend breaking up with him, and he was just going through different things to the issue at hand. That he was having thoughts of committing suicide. And with me always, coming around talking to him, just dealing with him on a regular, and I'm like, I know you don't want to go out. I know you don't want nobody around, but the point of it is, I'm still gonna just be around and talk to you. Like I pretty much provoked him into, getting out of this state of mind that he was in. And later on down the line, he told me, he was thinking about all this stuff and how bad his life felt like it was getting because it was a domino effect, from him losing her to job and, ultimately losing his license, his apartment, and just one thing after another started happening, and to the point where it just felt like his life wasn't worth it, and
Oh,
he
wow.
kind of put himself back in the trade because me and the guy mostly talked a lot. And like I said, I was constantly talking with him, dealing with it to the point, even though he didn't want no visitors, I would still go see him. And, you know, it was just to the point of me just pushing myself on him as, I knew he was going through something, even though, like you say, he was hiding it real well, like everything's okay. Yeah, I'm a little down, but, things will get better. But
Right.
he was saying that on the outside, but on the inside, he was in so much pain, you know. And guys, the craziness to me, they put so much value on the relationship with the women, that they don't reflect on themselves as, being lonely. I mean, you're actually born in this world by yourself, but we put so much emphasis on relationships and establishing and kids to the point where a lot of people think that they can't do without, you know.
Well, that's society as well. Society puts a lot on a successful relationship. And then we ask, okay, well, what is a successful relationship? One that has, stood the test of time, and they've gone through, a decade or more of togetherness, whether it's been miserable or not. If they stuck it out, you know what? That's a success. That's what, is society sees as a success. And they could have been miserable out of their freaking minds and had no business being with each other.
True.
And another thing which is unfortunate is that some men, they from media, maybe from family, friends, or whatever, they get the idea that like they're not a man unless they have a girl, a wife, kids, whatever. And their manhood, instead of them thinking like that's a part of adulthood, they kind of base their identity on their success or failure rate when it comes to that. I mean, God, we know how much talk do we hear about guys who are literally identifying your level of masculinity based on how many women you've slept with or not, right? So they don't have their own separate identity in those cases. So then when it fails, their masculinity fails with it. Their identity fails with it. And now it's like you're nothing, instead of I just lost something and it hurts, but I'm still me, but I'm still the same man. I'm still the same level of accomplished and masculine and whatever. It's like I've lost everything because everything was pinned on this one factor, i.e. the woman, the success rate of the woman, the fact that you got that woman. And so that's such a unhealthy way. Like as adults, we should have separate identities. I am an individual woman, right? I am also a wife. I will be a mother. I'm a daughter. I'm a bunch of other things too. But I, as an individual, I am a woman. My womanhood, my identity is not rooted in the fact that I have a husband. So that way, if I lose the husband, then I'm no longer a woman. Now I'm a child again. Now I've lost everything I've spent my whole adulthood building. Like, no, they don't frame it the same way, I think, for women than they do for men. And I think that that's very problematic, especially when we have so many households that don't have fathers in the picture, because then you have a lot of young boys who are growing up to manhood and who don't have fathers to kind of temper some of those messages from society to say, oh no, son, you're a man because of all the things you're doing right now as an individual and all the things you're going to build as an individual before you bring that into your life.
Okay. I agree with you.
I agree with that as well. These boys, they do rely on a father. It's nice to have a father there to be able to guide them. But when you don't have a father there and you only have the mother, it's already said that a woman does not know how to raise a man. We say that all the time. A woman does not know how to raise a man. But time and time again, you have these situations where the father is absent and the mother is doing her best with what she knows how to raise this boy. And you know what? By all definitions, she might be doing a piss poor job. But is anybody surprised? Who's surprised by that?
Nope. I'm not. How?
Right.
Because as a woman, we can only give our perspective. So I can teach
Mm-hmm.
my son how to treat a woman, right? Or how to treat a lady, how to treat a girl, to be successful when it comes to dating. But there's no way I can teach him how to become the kind of man who treats women that way. Do you see what I'm saying? Because the
Right.
there's a bunch of internal factors that go into that. There's the surface, the action that I like that my man does, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's all the internals inside of him that motivate him to be that thing that I like, right? And
Right.
I can't teach him how to do that. I could show him how to shave his face, I guess, but like I can't teach him how that feels as a man when you do this and you do this and then he splash the actor thing. I can't teach him what that feels like, right? Like I'm not a man. I don't have the proper equipment. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
Right.
that's just like me being raised by my grandmother, and it took time for her to actually start. She sent us to my oldest cousin. She would normally send me to my granddad because they actually got a divorce. But I would go over there, and I would take the time and just go over several men. Deal with them because ultimately, she knew when we got to a certain age, me and my brothers, we are around the same age. She got up to the point where we can, she showed us how to cook and clean, showed us, take care of ourselves by taking baths and, deodorant and, the simplest things. But,
Mm-hmm.
the characteristic traits and, standing on principles, we learned that from the men, because she can tell us to do it, but then it's
Right.
another thing to actually see it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I would tell a lot of people, we're more visual, just like me and my wife had a conversation. And she said no one ever taught her to be a wife. But like I told her, I said, you were visually seeing this with your mom and your grandmother being in relationships with your grandfather and your dad, to where you see how they treat each other. You see how they move with each other. You see how they will work things out, argue with if issues came up, to the point where you knew this is how the situations needs to be handled. This is,
Mm-hmm.
no one's formally taught, sit down, get a pencil and paper, let me tell you word for word, detail for detail. But you see it in a detailed structure, but by the way you're looking at these relationships unfold or, kind of process and carry on.
Well,
Yeah, there's no syllabus.
I've spoken about this before, with regards to my son. I only had one child and he was a boy child. So, with my husband was able to give guidance into the raising of that child that me by myself I would have never had. It is because of my husband that I stopped taking baths and showers with my son at a certain age. For me as a mother, I'm like, oh, this is quicker. We're going to do this together and we're going to move on. But my son got to a certain age and my husband was like, you need to stop taking showers with him. And I was like, oh, no, that's still my baby, And he was like, no, I understand what you're saying, but you need to stop taking showers with him. And I listened to that. I wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to, come hell or high water. This is going to be my baby. I listened to that because there was a reason why he was saying that. It wasn't because he was being a jealous man and he didn't want any other man looking at his woman. It was like, no, he's getting to a certain age of knowing and he should not be in these situations with his mother. And I'm like, that made sense. My son, when he was potty trained, like he went to the bathroom and, I watched my son go to the bathroom, like for the first time, his first little self. And when he finished going to the bathroom, he shook his little junk off. And I was like, oh, how adorable. I thought that was so adorable. But me being a woman, I've sat down my entire life to go to the restroom. I've never stood up and shook off nothing. So where would he have learned that from? He would have learned that from his father or the male figure in his life. So I could have never taught him how to go to the restroom and shake your junk and to clean it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I
But you
was
gotta shake it effectively, even if you know you're supposed to shake it. I don't know exactly how you shake it.
I don't go to the bathroom with men, so I don't know nothing about that. I know I sit down and I get some toilet paper and I make the
Right.
that need to be made. But with
Mhm.
my son, I was like, I would have never been able to show him that. So, there are those instances where the man is needed. A woman cannot raise a man, but all a woman can do is just do the best that she can.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maintenance. The maintenance.
I think the best that you can, though, right? Like she had said, he had a bunch of male role models. You don't have one inside of your house. He still had ones that he had, from family, deep connections with, to give him that male bonding time, that time where he now, okay, the ladies are gone. Okay, now I can ask a bunch of boy questions, right?
Mhm.
And that's something that, see, the thing is, it's one thing as a mother if you recognize that you can't do it. But I do think we have an issue where some mothers do not understand that they can't. You can't literally be mommy and daddy. When you say you're being mommy and daddy because you're paying all the bills, you cook, you clean, you are literally everything parentage wise to this kid. That's one thing. When you're saying it like you think that therefore he doesn't need male role models, that's where we start getting into a complication or an issue, because that means you're not going to intentionally, not your man, like as in, well, I want to find a man to help. No, this child needs a stable, role model that's trustworthy, probably family and whatever, to help him through these stages from like boyhood, really, because
Mhm.
these things start coming up when they're little boys. And to be fair, little boys don't understand that they are perceived differently. So I'll give you an example. My godson, so he went to first grade, and he's used to kind of being in a situation or scenario where it's primarily adults, first of all. Second of all, even when there are kids, like he's used to kind of being like, it's like a church family. So all these kids, y'all were all born and raised with, all these adults you're all born and raised with. So it's cool for you to jump on every random adult you meet and every random kid you meet and hug them and tickle them, and because y'all are all just kids and you're all just, and it's cool, right? A new kid comes into the mix, cool, we'll just adopt them in. So when he went into class now, and that's what he was doing, he was jumping on the kids and kissing them, the little girls and stuff like that. And like they wanted to take him out of school altogether, right? And then they thought he had like learning issues, like learning disabilities or some other type of thing, autism or something, because like they were like, we keep telling him not to and he keeps doing it. Or they thought something's wrong with him. Like, no, he just grew up differently than I guess y'all did. You only hug your brothers and sisters. Well, he had like 7,000 brothers and sisters in this church, so everything was cool, right? He didn't understand that as a little boy, going into this scenario now, he's 6, 7, now they look at you differently, right? Now you are almost like you're starting to be seen as a threat, so you have to modify your behavior. Right now, that's not something that my best friend thought of. And his father is not around by his own accord. And it's not something she thought of because he's just a boy. He's just a kid. He's like, he's barely out of diapers to us, right? But to the world, no, he's a big 6, 7-year-old man. That's how they see him. So, but men will understand that, right? And so they would just know to prepare certain things in advance. So as a young man, you can act that way. As a young man, you got to do this when you meet strangers, and they think about just decorum and stuff for young men. You got to start training them in early, right? All those little things make such a big difference when they're, older children or teenagers, where they kind of understand their power and their might of the fact that just they're men. And that's enough. That's enough to make them maybe a little stronger, a little scarier. People are going to look at them twice. People are going to look at them funny if they do X, Y, Z, right? Like a father will think of all of those things and be raising
Right.
his kid and constantly talking about it. You're walking down the street, you're pointing things out, sitting on the stoop, you're pointing things out, and you're just constantly engaging. And if not a father, then a male role model, right? Women, we got to understand, like, we won't think of these things until after they happen. And sometimes that's too late. Let's be real.
Most times it's too late. And I'll say this, and then we'll play a little bit more. I can't teach my godson how to fight. I'm thinking to do it this way and when to do it, because I'm thinking from my brain.
Right.
But that may not be the right thing. So
Right.
just want to throw that out there. But we'll play a little bit more and then we'll continue to discuss.
All right.
You know, a lot of people don't get it. A lot of people don't even understand why they're red pilled in the first place. If you're red pilled, you won't be angry towards women. You know, I understand women. You know, I had a guy in the comment section say, you know, he's been using all the dating sites, Tinder, all of that shit. I'm going to just go ahead and let you guys know, and you guys probably already know, that that stuff is just an opportunity to inflate her ego. It's an opportunity to put her on a fucking pedestal. That's all it is. You understand? Basically, if you are trying to seek out a dating partner at this particular point in your life, you're pretty much delusional. You're pretty much not in sync with reality. You're still in denial. You're still not red pilled. You're not even close to being black pilled. Let it go. Just let the shit go. It's not gonna get any better. It don't matter. I'm just telling you, it's not gonna get any better. Those type of women on those dating sites, they're either looking for some attention, or they're looking for a guy that's going to kiss their ass, a guy that's, you know, giving them money. You got to understand, most attractive women, right? They are going to be either gold diggers, they're gonna be cavalier, you know, very conceited, very arrogant, very snobby, all of those things. That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna do those things, and it's not gonna change. You have to understand the amount of attention she's getting every fucking day. If she's not getting it in person, she's getting it digitally. That's why I tell brothers all the fucking time, you need to get rid of social media. You don't need it. You do not need it. It's pointless. It doesn't suit you any well. It doesn't suit you any purpose at all. So understand, you will always lose. It's never gonna get better. So you got two options. And that option is learn to deal with it. Option two, you can kill yourself.
Okay, any comments?
So many. So many. But I think, you know, what it boils down to is this. Now, there is such a thing called black pill. There's MGTOW monks. There's a lot of rhetoric out there that specifically is for men who are done with women. But red pill is not supposed to be about men being done with women. That's supposed to, you know, the reality of female nature, and about the court system, and about whatever the kind of, you know, the environment you're actually really living, walking in, working in. But it's not supposed to be about being done with the idea of dating or marrying a woman. It's about you being smarter and wiser and not blue pilled about it. So, I mean, even just the fact that he is he's not exaggerating, but he's kind of over expanding this definition. Like, if you haven't seen the truth that it's all waste, you should want nothing to do with women, well then, man, you're nowhere near reality, right? It's like, that's where you see like that kind of thinking that is starting to take over your mind. Like, it's taking over everything.
Well, it just shows me when you start to see someone who is depressed, The slightest thing can really be, you know, off skewed, and it can really go one way. You know, whatever it was that was going on with him was so bad that he was like, you know what, I don't need to be breathing another moment. This needs to be it for me. And for me, that's where I'm like, you know, like, what happened? Where did you think that you not breathing anymore was going to solve the problem? You know, and for some people, that's where it is for them. And depression is a real thing. You know, it has to do with the chemical, you know, makeup of our bodies, our hormones, and it makes a difference, you know. And it's for me, I think it's so sad because, you know, these people, you know, who have this depression, you know, or who have these feelings, you know, they don't know where to go. Their only alternative is, you know what, if I just didn't breathe anymore, this would solve it all.
And what makes me so upset about it is it the people, they kind of go where everyone has the same opinion, and that's an issue. If I want to get I want to say the word better. If I want to find hope, I'll just use the word hope for right now. If I want to find something more encouraging, more hopeful because of my situation, let me go seek out that. Whether it is books, people I know that have had that experience, and even if you go on these forums or social media, seek out the opposite to find a better way. Like, okay, this is not working out for me. Let's see what they're talking about over here. Instead of the same thing that you're already thinking, you're already upset or whatever's going on, and you're listening to that constantly from other people. That is just, I just really hate the programming of that. And you see so much of it.
That it's such a fair point, Sharp, but at the same time, it's kind of like, let's say you broke up with someone and for once you were really sad about it, right? So, like, do you want to listen to a song that cheers you up, or do you want to listen to a song that's you're gonna cry? You know, it makes you cry, it makes you feel sad, or like, you know, you're super sad, something terrible happened, so you watch some movie that makes you makes you cry, right? So, you know, I mean, that's the thing. We tend to pick media that matches our mood, so that way we don't feel alone in that mood.
I want a little bit of both. I mean, you know, if I'm feeling bad, I want something that's going to tap into that. But then there comes a point where I round out the edge, and I'm like, you know what? I want to feel good about something. You know, I want to see something happy. You know, I don't want to see, you know, the bad news. I mean, when I was a little kid, I would get very depressed with the news because the news was nothing but bad news. It wasn't good stuff that they were showing you on the news. They were showing you who was robbed, who was murdered, what bad thing happened. And for me, news became very, it killed my anxiety. It increased my anxiety. You know, as a kid.
Yeah. I don't watch the news. I stopped watching news probably 30 years ago.
Yeah, I don't watch it either.
Yeah, no, I don't watch the news for that reason. But like, okay, eventually, right? Eventually you want to watch something or listen to something that's gonna, you know, make you feel like there's hope to come in better days. But like when you're super sad, like think about, or like if you're grieving the loss of someone, right? And then you go outside and the sun shining down, it almost feels like an insult, like, screw you, sun, go back behind the clouds. And then you hear some kids laughing and you kind of want to punch them in the face because how dare they be this happy when you are so devastated inside, right? Like all of that stuff is almost grating when you are in the depths of like misery, basically, right? You are more kind of tuned into something that now some heavy metal person singing about death and killing and murder, and something suddenly just feels very soothing. It's not that it's like you don't see it as it's reinforcing negativity in you. It feels soothing to hear that, again, you're not alone. Like, we're social creatures, so we really want to feel like we're not alone out there, right? Like, even when
Yeah.
you start moving on to the good music, you don't jump from the depths of despair into like the happiest bubbly pop song. Like, no, you get to that music where it's like someone, the beginning, they're singing about their desperation and how horrible things are and whatever, but then it ends on a positive note, right? Because it's kind of leading you there. Okay, someone lived through this before and they got through it to the other side, and then it can be good. So you don't want to be alone in the misery. And I think part of the issue is that when you're just in one message, right, and that message is like hyper focused on one stage instead of kind of moving through all the different stages, like, the 5 stages of grief, then you don't ever get to kind of slowly try to cycle upward in that way, right? Like, it's soothing at first and whatever, but eventually you don't actually need that soothing. What you need is action, and you need action forward. And the problem with this is it seems like the action forward he got was more negativity, something that is actually negative and not helpful to try to kind of help bring you upwards.
Yeah. I didn't like the term he used, there's no hope.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow, no hope. But he says that because you'll find yourself doing the same thing over and over again. And I'm like, no, you can do something different.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do the same thing over and over again.
Right.
So I'm like, wow, just so many questions.
And that's what's sad to me
Yeah.
is because there are some people who feel like, there is no hope. There
Mm-hmm.
absolutely is no hope. And when it comes to that, for me, I'm just like, wow, is there anything that could have been done that could have turned that person around and given them a different light on things? I've
Yes.
had my moments where, I'm like, oh my God, woe is me. It's the end of the world. This is horrible. Then 2 hours later, I'm like, oh, it's not that bad. Hey, it's not that, it's not as bad as I thought it was, and I'm like, I wonder if I had killed myself, when I thought it was at its most horriblest, that would have been just actually too much. It would have been too much. So it's like, I think people who deal with depression, their inability to be able to gauge, how far is enough,
Okay.
and that's what I think is sad. And that's why it should never be taken lightly, because some people can't judge it. They think, what, this is horrible. The only way to end this would be for me to not be breathing anymore. Regardless of what you tell them, maybe tomorrow they may have thought differently, but at this moment, that feeling is very strong in them. And they're like,
Yeah.
I don't need to breathe anymore. I need to die. And that would really make all of this turmoil end. And then, you look on something like, a year later, you'd be like, oh my God, I was devastated over that. And it wasn't nothing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's the thing. The key thing about depression, right, and having major depressive disorder is that, which people confuse, people think that you become clinically depressed over something. And that's actually not what it is. It's a chemical triggered by something that will have recurrent episodes. Actually,
She jumping in and out.
that's like you're not depressed about that.
Okay. So I thought that was on my end.
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can
Things
hear us,
because,
Ruby, you're going in and out if you can hear us.
oh no, am I? Okay, let me leave and come back.
Okay, now I hear you talking. Okay.
Oh, seriously? Okay, I'll leave and come back.
Yes, you sound
Yeah.
poof.
But when it comes down to it, a lot of guys they sit in the echo chamber, because it's soothing to have people with the same belief, the same, kind of interactions that you have, the same type of feelings, to the point where it's good to kind of express it and get it out, but it's another thing to kind of just dwell in. It's like a pig playing in mud. Eventually you got to get out the mud. And a lot of guys, it's a thing to where they can't turn it on and turn it off. Like my wife, she sit there and heard me listen to a lot of guys, and she's like, oh my goodness, like how could you sit here and listen to this? Some of these guys are just so hurt, and you can tell that they're gonna be in this for the rest of their lives. And I was like, that's the whole reason for me coming on and trying to spread in some type of joy. Like, hey, look, I'm married, I done it. For all the guys that say it's impossible, I'm like, look at me, and they,
Hmm.
well, you're different, and you're this. I'm like, if I can do it, you can too. And if all else fails, like I told my friends, I was like, if I would have never got married, the first thing I would have did was, start uh working on cars. I would have got me like a couple of hobbies, maybe even a dog, even if I want, if not really a dog, if I wanted to, I'd have got one, but mainly I'd have been having a car hobby. It's so many things you can do on a car, restoring the car. It's so many woodwork things that you can do, kind of building chairs, building furniture. There was a guy I know, he got a divorce from his wife, and he ultimately just started running around making furniture. He's like, he wanted to go ahead and, like the story of Jesus being a carpenter. Like his
Right.
whole thing was trying to get to that status.
Okay.
Mhm. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
We're
Yes.
good.
Okay, perfect. So what I was saying is, and this is the difference, like people use the word depressed so much, it's almost lost like its true meaning. Um, and so there are, like, you have situational depression, right? So your a parent or some loved one dies, and that triggers a deep depression. That's situational. It normally, if it lasts for a normal period of time, right, which clinically would be under 2 months, the depths of it, right, before you start coming out of it, that's actually a healthy, normal reaction, right? Clinical depression, people think about it as being because of a particular thing. You lost your job and you're that deeply depressed for 6 months or 2 years because you lost your job, but that's actually not what it is. So, you might use that thing as a particular outlet or refer to that thing as being the reason why you're upset or down or depressed or everything sucks or whatever, right? But it's almost like a justification. Like you are going to give that to everybody because that's a surface thing. It makes sense. It's a thing people are going to validate you for, but the reason why you're depressed is not because of something. The reason why you're clinically depressed is because of your brain chemistry. And that's it. And so someone could have taken, Miss Perfect, drop her in his lap, and it wouldn't have changed anything because it's not about that. When we're talking about clinical depression, it's not about that, right? It's about this brain imbalance. So without actually professional help, professional intervention, a lot of times you either hopefully the period you're going through doesn't have suicidal ideation or actions attached to it. Not everyone's do. Or you come out of that period of depression because you can come out of it on your own before anything too bad happens. And I think that's part of the issue, though, is again, it looks and sounds exactly the same as a guy who's just bitter and angry and feeling a little hopeless because a girl
Hmm.
won't look his way. And then the second a girl looks his way, he disappears off the internet. We don't hear from him anymore because he's happy now because he got a girl, right? So I mean,
Right.
and how do you differentiate, right? It's like I'm right now sitting here saying all this, playing Monday night quarterback, really, because that's, in this case I can say, well, you don't normally get suicide from people who are not clinically depressed. So I'm guessing he's clinically depressed and probably didn't realize that that was the issue. Like, if you did actually get help, maybe some medication, definitely some talk therapy. Normally, the combination of both together is kind of the best bet. And then you come out of it, and then you can kind of look back and say, I don't even remember. You don't really look back as much and say, man, thank God I didn't follow through in XYZ. You just kind of look back and you're like, and I'm saying this as someone who has major depressive disorder, and I have since I was 16 years old. So I've had many depressive episodes, and
Okay.
yet I cannot remember what I felt like in that moment. I cannot remember what it feels like to be at the depths of depression. I can't remember. I don't know how to feel that way now. Literally don't. I don't know how to make my mind connect with it. So I kind of can say general things, but it's very different than being in it in the moment. All I can say is that there's like a me, and the real me, this person right here we're listening to, she got dropped down a well. Okay. And then, I kind of faintly hear her screaming in the background, but mostly it's this new, devoid of all rubiness me that is existing and making decisions for me. Right. One who just suddenly doesn't care about my future, about my hopes, dreams, aspiration, goals, who suddenly can't feel love, can't taste food, can't enjoy anything. And everything seems pointless and hopeless. And it seems like it's lasted forever, and it will last forever. Like this, it's never going to change. Your sense of perception as far as time, space, reality gets totally skewed. And like no one can fix that. Like you can't even fix that, because you just think it's been forever and it's going to be forever, and you can't remember the other times. You just remember now. It's a very isolating place to be, both mentally, and then, like I said, you physically isolate yourself as well. So who's keeping you attached to reality?
Yeah, because
Okay.
a lot of men do the same as a lot of women do. They have this whole, likeness on what they want to be in a relationship. And every time they always comment on, I'm going in after one bad relationship after another, but they never change up. You know, if like most women I hear, they always say, I keep going into a bad relationship with a man. But then I ask them, what are the men they deal with? Oh, he has to be muscular. He has to look like this. He has to have this body type. Same thing for the men. This woman has to look this certain type of way. And I'm like, if you keep dealing with the same woman and keep getting the same outcome, shouldn't you change it up? Well, why should I bend my beliefs or kind of, change up what type of person I want to be happy? Well, I'm like, ultimately, you're going after the person that's making you miserable. So why not change it up? But a lot
Well,
of people never get that.
they're going. It sounds to me like they're going for like the superficial things.
All right.
A guy who's this tall and he has this type of muscular build. A woman whose waist is this size and her hips are looking like this. Everybody does not fit that mold. My thing is that I am I am shocked with what I've seen, just in my own eyes. I haven't been everywhere, but I've been enough places to know that, for the most part, people are so, visual, and for them, it doesn't matter about, the rapport you have with the person, how good the person is, the integrity of that person, the character of that person. And for me, those things are monumental. That means a lot, because at the end of the day, your looks, those muscles, all of that shit will atrophy. You're gonna get some wrinkles. It's gonna sag. It's not gonna look the same. And if I'm stuck with a crappy person with a horrible character, I don't want that.
I say this: if you get that, whatever the guy is, the as he was saying, the 6 foot and whatever, if you keep getting that guy and you get the same result, it would just have to come to my mind like, dang, maybe every guy like that is like this. So let me try something different.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go over here and see what this is all about. Let me accept his offer. And you have to do that. So I don't know if guys date like that. It has to be, she has to look like this. She has to smell like that. I don't know. But I would say try something different.
And I agree with
Honestly,
that. I agree with that, Shar. It's only because, and it takes you to, actually step outside your box, because for me personally, I have a preference of this, guy that I think is, like attractive, and I like this type of, physique of a guy and whatnot. But for me, that's visually what I find to be appealing. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to throw, compatibility and everything out the window just because I want something pretty to look at. Because at the end of the day, you want longevity. The physique of a man that, I find to be appealing for me are the basketball types. The tall, lean, almost like emaciated, just like skinny basketball type guy. I don't know what it is, but I like that type of build of a man. But I don't end up with that type of man. I end up with a man who is more of an intellectual, a smart man, a man that, I can learn something from. So it's like, you kind of like what you like as far as a preference, but it doesn't mean that just because you like that as a preference, you're stuck or you're molded in that spot and you can't think outside of it.
so weird. Vonda just said a whole bunch of things about her that are also true about me. And yet we are
What?
so
Wait a
radically
minute.
different.
Rewind the
Yeah.
tape. Rewind the VHS tape.
Right?
There we go. I heard it. Okay, now what, Ruby? What?
Okay. So first and foremost, right, my favorite physique, right? When I was speaking, I like the baller. I literally use that word, the baller physique, right? That it's like that not like the football, but like the basketballer, like
Yes,
that
I
wiry,
did
thin,
too, Ruby.
strong.
That long,
Yes.
lean, just like
Mm-hmm.
super long and lean. It's like, wow. It's just like, yeah.
Right, exactly. But then the kind of guy that I end up falling in love with and being with and whatever is always the intellectual
The
type.
intellectual guy. Yeah, the Martin Luther King.
Right? Now, of course, I'm not saying both can't be the same person, but I'm saying that, what's my priority? My priority is their character and their persona, which tends to be like I said, it's like 97% of the guys that I've dated been really serious about and whatever. That's what they are. They're the intellectual type, they're the intelligent type. They're normally in like some type of STEM area, stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know. And generally, I mean, I gotta like your face, right? You gotta have a decent enough face that
but
when I look
Ruby,
at you, I want to kiss you. But
with,
like,
with the face, you know what? That is all relative because for me, I'm not in the aesthetic. You got to look like Shamar Moore type, type aesthetic. It's like with the man in his look comes, his character, and if he has a certain character about him and the way that he carries himself, to me that matters. How a man carries himself, and and for me that adds to his attraction. So
right.
you don't have to look like Shamar, to be, that dude, for me, and that's me personally, and you know what, to be honest, I think it's a lot like that for women too. But a lot of women feel like they have to fit this, cookie cutter, Barbie doll image, to be that bad bitch.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm gonna say this. I honestly think the far large majority of everyone is full of shit, and that is to say, I think that the majority of people who spell out this almost like unattainable standard, the only people that they would date and marry and whatever, are full of it. No, you would absolutely date people who are well under every single one of those standards. well under. You would absolutely not only date 8s, 9s, and 10s. You would absolutely date 4, 5s, and 6s. You would absolutely date girls who are a little heavy set to obese. I've seen it again and again and again. But what happens is, how much of a loser do you sound like, right? When you say, man, I barely have like any standards, and yet I can't get a guy to ask for my number to save my life, right? So you don't say that. So instead, what you say is, my standards are incredibly high and nobody can reach them. And that's why I'm single, right? And then that makes, sure, make you sound like a picky bitch, right? But other than that, right, it makes you sound like, well, you just have a lot of standards, and ultimately the problem is that humanity can't reach, right? Humanity can't keep up with you because you have set your standards here and you're not willing to compromise, right? But what ends up happening is then all of a sudden someone who doesn't fit any of those categories they've laid out, you know, approaches them, comes their way, whatever, and now they're dating, and boom, all of a sudden, and I've seen it with my own two eyes on both sides, ladies and gentlemen. I've seen both men and women with these ridiculous lists, and then, when you look at them, they're finally dating someone, finally married to someone, and then I literally asked one of my best girlfriends. I asked her, I said, listen, how many, remember that list we talked about and I told you should drop it and then you didn't, and now it's like 10 years later you're married? Yeah, okay, cool. So how many of those check boxes does your husband fill out? Remember, there's like a million things. And she said, none. I swear to God, she said none. Not one, not three, none. Out of like a 55-page list, none. So then what does that tell you? Right. And I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like, she just had a bunch of stuff and it was protection. It was protection either because, she wasn't getting approached, or ultimately because she wasn't in the right place. But she would rather, again, just reject people criticizing her, or whatever, and just, well, here's my standards. No one lives up to it. The end. Right. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing. The problem is that, again, when you get a space like the internet, you got people who are on here for all kinds of reasons. And
absolutely.
Right? And the problem is with vulnerable people is that vulnerable people then come into a space like this
Shark
and think
bait.
everyone thinks like them. Everyone thinks like they do.
A vulnerable person on the internet is like shark bait, and
Yes, ma'am.
let the buyer beware. You have to be very careful. And you don't always know this when you first get started out on the internet, but I just say with anything, you should proceed with caution because you don't necessarily know what you're getting yourself into. Proceed with caution.
Right.
Let me ask you, because I do know that there's a lot of pressure. Women, they are pressured to have a guy look a certain way. In my opinion, it appears that it's even worse for men, because you guys get clowned if you don't have a woman to look a certain way.
Right.
Would you like to expound on that if you can?
Well, when it come down to it, a lot of guys have issue with that because taking women to the family reunions and gatherings, they get critiqued a lot, and a lot of men, well, in some cases, the guys were like, "Hey, man, I raised you better than that. What you bringing that little girl? She rough," and it gets to that point where a lot of guys get embarrassed. But my thing is this: when it come down to it, I've dated big women. Like I say, I've never dated anyone that was obese, but I've dated bigger women. And my thing at the end of the day, I'm dealing with this woman, not you. So if you have a complaint, then take it up with the board or something.
Yeah,
just take it up with the board because this is us over here. And a lot of guys, that's why I tell them, I say, man, you gotta go where you're happy. And a lot of guys who date outside the culture, I typically say, if you want to do that, that's you. But like I tell guys, you gotta be happy at all times in your relationship. You can't sacrifice your happiness just for image and for a look, because most of the guys are miserable like that. Like I tell guys, If you get a 9 or a 10, that's pretty much maintenance. That girl has to be groomed a certain way. She has to keep her hair, nails, all that done. A certain type of look far as her clothes, cars. She's keeping up a persona of an image. And I'm like, you're paying for that image. So first of all, you got to have money to pay for an image. Second
Right.
of all, you have
Mhm.
to, cater to her needs. She has feelings and, she want things to be a certain way. And most men, they be like, well, she's clingy or she's this. Dude, that's what you signed up for. Ultimately, you know, I tell them, I say, you can't go have these relationships with women and feeling a certain way because, you have to put so much into the relationship. Well, ultimately, it's not saying that you have to, like downgrade or get a woman that's not as fine, but just get a woman where you connect. Because my thing is this: over time, those looks are going to diminish. You know, if she's a 10 walking in a relationship, 20 years from now, if she starts to gain a little weight, she's
Mm-hmm.
not taking care of herself as much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're gonna have that issue. Be like, man, I used to be the prom king. Like that back in the I had the I had to find this girl, man.
Prom
But now
king.
look at her, man. Now look at her, man. You know, and a lot of guys they have issue with that. Like I tell guys, when it come down to it, and the old lady, like I always seek counsel from a lot of old people back in the day, and she told me, she said, "You're gonna be a great husband." And I asked her, I was like, "Why you say that?" She was like, "Because you know how to cook, you know how to clean, you know how to do certain things that generally most men don't want to do. But the point that you see, you take pride in doing it. As I got older, I I didn't have an issue like right now. I don't have an issue with me and my wife actually cooking and cleaning and stuff. And it's to the extent right now where I'm not doing any cooking at all. And she came to me and was like, "Well, when are you gonna start back cooking?" I said, "Look, you on punishment because when I was giving you the sake of just cooking random times, I would say, look, you don't even got to cook tonight." She's like, "But I'm gonna cook it." I say, "Look, you want to break or not?" "Okay, okay." And she would try to push an issue like, "Well, it's your turn to cook." I said, "I didn't know we was kind of exchanging." I
Boo.
said, I said, but at the same time, I said, if you want to do it that way, I just won't cook it. No, 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 no. Everything's
Take the
fine.
turns.
You know, and
Hmm.
the thing is, I tell her, I give her breaks. Even with cleaning, I go around the house. I see something I might clean. I get in the mode, might put on some music, and I get the cleaning. Shit, get out the
Al
way,
Green.
cause nah, I be playing some ratchet stuff. I get in
Uh-oh.
my rap music.
Okay.
I get in my rap sometimes. Every now and then. R&B is cool. When I'm winding down, but you know, my rap keep me a little hype up and everything. So I be jumping around. Kids looking at me like, "What's wrong with you?"
Hmm.
But and for the sake of me actually telling her that the things that I'm doing, I say most guys won't even help the wife cook to a certain extent if it's not on the grill. And I told her, I said, "You got luxuries far more than most women dream of, you know." And she took advantage, like she was trying to take advantage of that opportunity. Now that it's gone, she trying to seize the moment again. And I'm like, it's coming back, but there's implement rules that go in play. Just like I tell her about, when she does things around the house, and she was like, "Well, you're being mean, or you're trying to enforce some type of discipline, like I'm one of the kids." I'm like, "No, we're in a relationship." I say, "It's a give and a take. If you take and I keep giving, I'm always gonna lose. But if you take and I don't give, then you're gonna want to, actually get back to that point of you receiving again." That's what a lot of people in relationships, they going on a one-sided dimension to the point where when they don't get what they want, everything, goes up and down. Far as the looks as well. When a woman starts to gain weight and she's not the same as she was back in the day, most of those guys want to hightail and leave. Same thing with a woman. If she's not getting a certain type of lifestyle that she got during the first, term of the marriage, when you guys were, into this whole romantic moment, this lovey-dovey moment where you just spending all your money buying stuff for her, you got to keep that up. So most guys got to understand that, you know.
But see, that's the problem, though, is that actually, I'm going to say this. It's actually not these days. It's before these days because old and young, even millennials, understand marriage better than, say, late generation Xers. That is to say, the marriage rate might be decreased, but the divorce rate is way down in this population and younger. And the reason why is because they get it. They don't have to rush into marriage with nobody, so they're not. But they also understand that if I'm going to get married, that's supposed to be for better or worse.
Right.
And for better or worse doesn't work as well in the 21st century if you don't like, not in love with, not attracted to, like the person that you're marrying, right? Like you have to like this person. You got to be able to get along with them. When COVID
So
happens and
amazing.
you only see this one other adult, you have to genuinely enjoy that time. And when lockdown ends, you're like, man, we don't get to hang out all day anymore. That's how it's supposed to be, right? If you're like, man, by the end of lockdown, man, you're ready to sign those divorce papers, and you are because you can't stand each other. Well, there's a problem, right? So better or worse, right? When we're talking about it with women, okay, yes, women want to be provided for. So therefore, if your man can no longer provide as efficiently as he once did, and he hits a funk and now he's depressed and whatever, that's called worse. And that's not your job now to get up and walk away because you're a wife. So it's your job to try to find the way to support and inspire him to get back up on the horse. Likewise, for men are very visual, right? They like attractiveness. They married you because they thought you were attractive, and now you've gained a whole bunch of weight because you've given them 5 kids. Yeah, okay. So that's called worse, right? Now she's got 5 different kids, all under the age of 6. She ain't got time to cook and clean the way she used to, and now she's well overweight because she ain't got time to work out like she used to. Okay, that's called worse. That's not the time you go, well, girl, you better lose 50 pounds before summer, otherwise I'm leaving you, right? Like, no, that's called not marriage, right? So I mean, then you encourage, then you help, then you support. Okay, I see you don't have time to cook, so you're just eating chips and crap while you're feeding the kids. Let me cook us a nice dinner for us to sit down and eat, a healthy style. Let me go do some of the grocery shopping and get some stuff in the fridge. Let me take my part. Hey babe, let us all as a family go out and take a walk and play in the park, or you do your job as a husband to provide that support that she needs to get back up on the horse. So I think a lot of people lose sight of that, and they think that it's all right that they lose sight of that. And the reason why they think it is because, to me, they got married for the wrong reasons. They got married for some surface tangible bullshit normally, that is guaranteed to change, right? Like looks are guaranteed to change. Guaranteed. There's no way someone's going to maintain the same looks that they have when you marry them at 25. It's just not going to happen,
Very, very
right?
true.
And money, easy come, easy go. There's a reason they have that saying. So
Mm-hmm.
just had to throw that in.
And that's for young people. I mean, young people do have a certain way that they think. Like when I met my husband, I was, 18 years old. I met him on a blind date, and we spent 23 years together. So
Wow.
in my mind, the way I think is that you meet someone and you like them, and they like you, then you guys, try to make it work. But people don't date like that. Nowadays, people don't date like that. There are like 127 ulterior motives why someone would date you, in this day and age. And you have to be privy to all of those. And then the 8 that you don't know about, you need to know about.
Well, you got the whole culture now to where the women want the bag and the men want the best of the best, And I always struggle with this whole term because I want to degrade men. I kind of say young boys are having come into fruition when it comes down to it, because certain men know, when I get married, I've been around older men that they say a marriage is a long-term commitment. So don't go down the aisle if you're not willing to sacrifice that. Even with
Right.
having kids, The older men told me about having kids with the right woman. That's why I tell most guys it's easy to get married nowadays because of the different things that the men in the ministry talk about, not being getting caught up, the same way. God, a lot of men give stories about situations that we're in. Most of the young guys who don't have fathers, they take heed and listen to this, and they get an understanding. Whoa, man, these women are crazy. And some
Mhm.
guys, they got to the point where they be like, man, I don't think I want to get married. But then, like I've been on
Mhm.
panels and I've told guys, I said, if you don't want to get married, you don't want kids, don't give advice man want to have kids, because ultimately you're shaming him out of a lifestyle that you've already tried to accomplish and it didn't work for you. So don't take your standing on life in which you've been hurt and done wrong and push it onto him, because you're not even giving him a fighting chance. An 18, 20-year-old guy that wants to get out there and
Facts.
try to get married, him the
Mhm.
wrong
Yeah.
information. And like I tell guys, if
Mhm.
you're doing that, that's wrong. I've heard a guy like 19 and 20 years old talking about they're going MGTOW. I was like, dude, you haven't even been in a relationship.
Man,
How?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like,
Similac on the
you're
breath.
listening.
exactly. What's the M in MGTOW for you, my brother?
Yeah.
Like, they back up.
I
And I tell
have
them,
questions. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead and finish. I'll come
Well,
behind you.
I just said I have so many issues with that. Even when I push towards the young ladies, I'd be like, go to a woman that's been married for a length of time to get an understanding on how to be a wife and how to pursue a relationship. Because the other women that are teaching you this, they're only going to put you in that same mindset because they didn't get what's good for them. So they don't want to see you succeed. So they rather see you have that pitfall as well. But go ahead.
Okay.
Mhm.
I always have specific questions because this is how I approach people. Whatever you say is true. That's how I
Mhm.
approach a person. So if they say um, the sky is pink and I don't know, there's 10 days in a week. Okay. That's what you say. Okay, it's true. Now I have some questions about that. Why is that true? What are those other 3 days that you're speaking of? Because I know about seven. What's the other 3 days? And I'll give that person a chance to answer.
Mhm.
So, saying that, I'm saying this: if women, whatever your statement comes behind that is blah blah blah, okay, that's true for you. When did you find that out?
Mhm.
Was it at an early age? Was it at what your teenage years? Was it after your divorce or your first child or whatever it is? And I want to walk there with you to find out, when did you discover this truth that you're telling me? Because it's true for you, and I accept that. Just tell me, when did that become true? I'm gonna have some questions for you. Once we're done, I want to thank you for your time, and I'm going to move on.
Right.
I'm not going to argue
Mhm.
with you. So I say that as far as when it comes down to a lot of the conversations that I hear. I know a lot of the people are not approachable, so I can't ask them that.
Mhm.
They seem to be very angry, and what they're saying is true to them, and I receive it. Okay, no worries. But it has to come a point when someone can approach you and ask you to explain. That's
Mhm.
the only issue I have. I'm like, when is it gonna be a time for someone to ask to explain? I don't care if it's let's say it's a content creator that's saying it. Okay, can we super chat you and get an answer?
Right.
Can
Right.
we, what's the other? Can we cash app you, get an answer? Can we have a live stream and get an answer? A recorded video, anything where we can get an answer why what you're saying is true,
Mhm.
so we can understand. And that's what's missing to me with the rhetoric or information that people are giving. That's
Mhm.
all I ask is, can you please explain it? You know, if you keep
No.
saying 2 and 2 is 5, or you like RBR,
Mhm.
change yourself when you got. Can you please explain how you're saying that I do that? Can you just
Mhm.
explain it? It's true to you. I'll accept that. But why is it true for me? Please explain.
Right. Mhm. But they can't explain. I actually had this discussion with a young gentleman. I won't use his name. Um, but so he was repeating the thing about how 80% of women have out of wedlock children to only 20% of men in the Black community, right? And so I said, well, that statistic is slightly misunderstood, right? Oh, that's BS, Ruby. Okay, cool. Let's start here. I did not see your name around here until about a year and a half ago. So I know you were not around when the origins of those statistics being brought out were being spoken about. But maybe you did your research. I'll give you credit. What is the origin? Just the origin source of that information. Where did they get that information from? Because it's true. No, 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 no. No, you said facts are facts, right? You said facts is facts. Cool. Okay, so where do these facts come from? Statistics, right? But where are the statistics from? What is the original source? Is it what is it the census? Is it a Gallup poll? Is it a bunch of research they've compiled? Where is it from?
It's the
That's bullshit.
markets.
Right.
Oh, I'm
That's why.
sorry.
And
Sorry.
I end up saying to him, I said, like, listen, bro. Okay, so this is my point. You don't actually know what you're talking about, right? You're just repeating what you've heard other people say, and it sounds good to you because it makes you feel good or better about whatever situation brought you to the space to begin with. And he said, that's bullshit. How would you know? You don't even know me. And I said, well, I know because you can't tell me where the information comes from. So the only place you could have gotten it from is from someone else repeating it. And I don't even know if the person you heard repeat it actually did the research themselves or is just repeating it from someone else they heard, repeating for someone else they heard, that's repeating it from someone else they heard. Hey, bro, is this your idea then? It
Right.
doesn't seem like this is your idea. So it doesn't seem like this is your sentiment about life at all, right? This is someone else's sentiment about life. So
Hey,
why are
Ruby.
you here? Mhm.
So was that the point in the conversation where you were called a name?
Oh, I was called a name before like the end of that, but yeah,
I was
definitely.
wondering. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh
okay.
yeah. Lots of names.
I want to
Lots of
say
names.
two. I want to
Mhm.
say two things to that. When guys do that, Art Nastal had a perfect definition. He called them YouTube scholars. And the,
Oh,
the
Okay.
scholars.
crazy,
Yes.
the
That's
yeah,
gracious. That's
and
very gracious.
the craziness of it is too that one guy, I think his name was Brian McKerney or something.
Mhm.
When the guy was up there just spouting all this stuff to him and BGS, Art
Mhm.
Nastal had put up the award up there with the guy's name typed in there and say, BGS, can you do the duties? And they did a award ceremony music in the background. And it's like, here's your, it
Oh,
Oh
was
wow.
wow.
funny. He's like, because you're talking about stuff you don't know about. You only heard it from channels or,
Right.
just you watched a video and now you're a scholar, and I was crying laughing. And another thing is, too,
Yes.
a lot of men, when they do that in this space, and I always hit them with feelings, that
Mhm.
Maxwell song be like, I always do
Oh,
that
I love
every
that song.
time. I be
Oh,
like,
Sheet, I
look,
miss
That was
you.
beautiful. You get a
I
hand
be
clap
like,
for that one.
Oh my gosh, see, you're hilarious. Yeah.
I,
I'm sorry, that's my song. I love that
hey,
song.
I know, and the women love it. That's why I tell them. I say, take your feelings out of here. I said, we're dealing in facts. If you can't use facts, just go. Just go in the corner and cry or something. My goodness,
Right.
man.
Right. Thank
I
you. Go to
love
the corner
that.
and cry or something. Sheet, I miss you so much, brother.
Oh, that's hilarious. I want to hear that song now and shit. It's like, okay.
Okay. I want you to sing that note again one more time for me, She. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mhm.
Yes,
You
yes,
okay?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, there you go. Applause,
Hey,
applause.
Yes.
I'm gonna do a sound bite. I'm gonna do a sound bite for that, and I'm gonna drop it
Yes.
every
Okay.
once in a while.
Okay, send it to me, justaskchar@gmail.com. I want that MP3. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that's hilarious. You hit
Uh,
the nail on the his head.
right? It's so perfect. Like, and you know what? Listen, I don't think there's any more we could say tonight. Stream done. I'm over
Yeah,
it. That was perfect. Yes.
I
All
agree.
right.
Beautiful.
Say, mic drop, mic drop.
Mic
Yes.
drop.
Yep.
Just slam it. Go ahead and slam it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh man, that was good.
That
But
was
yeah,
excellent.
that's part of the issue. And like obviously, when I first got to this space, okay, everything was facts. You could not come with personal stories. You could not come with no feelings stuff. You had to come with research, facts, statistics, and you couldn't skew them neither, right? You had to come with some real stuff.
Right.
So the fact the fact that now you've got all these people coming in with so many emotions, and it's validated in a lot of male run channels, right? I'm just like, guys, like, I understand that you all do collectively feel this way, right? And I'm not saying your feelings are invalid, because they're not, right? Feelings are feelings. Everyone has them. You're entitled to your feelings, and your feelings are very real. But we need to identify those as feelings. Like, there's a difference between a feeling and a fact. There's a difference between your feelings and the actual objective reality.
Well,
You know,
this is a representation of, how things actually occur. People say one thing and then they present another with their actions,
hmm
and so people are able to see this. These people say that they're going to do a certain thing, and you know either they're going to do it or they're not
hmm
you know
Yeah. I just like solutions, I like to see a finished product. And I'm so used to knowing and being around men that finish something. He sets out to do one thing. It may take him a while. I'll encourage him, but he'll get there.
hmm
And I like that. And I'm so used to seeing that I'm a little
hmm
confused what I see around me in YouTube for so many
Right.
years. I've yet to see, any accomplishments. So
hmm
that's what,
Yeah,
makes me sad.
yeah. Because a
hmm
lot of guys right now, it's like the watered down version of of standing on principle. A lot of guys. That's why I always guys I talk to a lot. They're 5%ers. And I tell them, I have knowledge of self, so I can talk to you without going the whole 180, the 360, the terms in which they deal with, because I have an understanding of myself. I know how to walk and move in a purpose, you know, in which me and you can hold a conversation. That why I can't go into depth with you, but I can
hmm
relate to you to a certain way, so we both can talk on the same plane and have a conversation of thought. A lot of
Right.
guys can't do that because they hold this principle to where whatever I say, you should just take it for face value because we're men. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna
Right.
give you that credit because you say something and I'm gonna stand behind you as a man. I'm like, no, I'm like, I can't do that. When it comes down to most of the guys, I tell them, a lot of women have a code. Men, we don't have a certain code because if you do something wrong in front of a man, he's gonna be like, man, I'm not condoning that. No. But with
hmm
most women, when they look out for each other, they girlfriends, they give them that, like, you've heard the stories of women, if they cheated, they be like, wasn't I over your house? And the girlfriend be like, uh-huh. You asked to do that? He be like, man, you on your own. And he don't want to get
yeah
Hmm.
involved. Like, hey,
Yeah.
hey, I ain't got nothing to do with that. And we throw each
hmm
other up on the bus because, I'm not gonna sit here and, run my name in the ground because if you want to do what you do with your bad behavior, just be right the first time and you won't have these issues, you
hmm
know. And a lot of
Yeah.
hmm
guys don't want to stand on that. If you're gonna be walking a certain way, talking a certain way, at least speak the truth. Don't come out here with narratives stories. That's just like Roger Report. He always say, if you're trying to tell me something like anomaly that can almost happen, I can go around anywhere and find a man with 2 broke legs. I go find somebody with 2 broke legs. People, like, it was a story where this girl, she had 11 kids, and she was like, "Oh, y'all talk about baby mamas. My friend got 11 kids. She got married to a dude and had a kid with him and had 12 kids." And then a lot of the girls like, "See, it's hope for me." No, she was an anomaly. This not gonna happen to you. Even I'm like, no, that's not the norm. And a lot of people get into that mindset of that being the norm, even with the guys, man. I mean, I understand when it come down to certain situations, people just like that feeling part where they get so emotional attached to things like, man, I want what this person got. I want on both genders. Everybody wants happiness at the end of the day. But that pursuit for a lot of people, they really don't want it, because if they do, they would change their ways.
Well, a lot of people don't know they want happiness, right? A lot of people have to get the bullshit they've been sold into thinking they want first to realize that what they actually wanted was happiness all along, and they thought getting those things meant happiness, right? Like, a lot of women say that they want a high value man, but what they actually really mean is, I want a man who won't lie to me, who won't cheat on me, who won't disrespect me, who won't beat me, who won't this, who won't that, and does this, this, and this. And I have the impression that high value men fit the bill. They do all of those things. So if I get a high value man, I am guaranteed to get all of these things that I am looking for that make me happy. Mostly people focus on the money, but that's actually really not what it is. It's that. And so the ones who then get the high value man, right? Then they get married. They finally, I finally got my dream. And then they realize, oh, wait a minute. No, that high value bullshit, that was nothing I wanted. It didn't actually mean fidelity. In fact, it kind of meant the opposite. And it didn't actually mean this. It actually kind of means the opposite.
No such damn thing as a high value man. What the hell?
Well, I mean,
it's the whole
what is a high value man?
Society narratives. A man that makes money, and this whole high value thing, it's to a point where Kevin made this whole standard. And a lot of women look at that standard as, this guy is better than all men. And when they try to push that to the forefront, and I always tell people, it's like the cheat code. A lot of women think about getting a high value man, you get the cheat code. No, because if you don't qualify, if you can't qualify for a high value man, and you're putting this man on a pedestal, you're telling every other man below him that they're nothing. And then when you go back and say, I made a mistake, let me go deal with this guy who's a plumber that makes $130,000 a year, but he's this high value man that you were reaching because he don't have that status job. He works at an HR, PR firm or whatever. That's the status you're looking for. You're not looking for the man to come home with dirty hands. The plumbers, the mechanics, even drivers, they make the same amount of money, but the women, they want that glitz and glamour, because it gets to a point, like I tell people, like the baby effect. But a lot of women want this whole baby. It's the same thing with marriage. A lot of women want the marriage just to say they're married, but really don't want to be married because they don't know how.
Yeah.
But that's in those instances where those women do need to check themselves, because like you were saying, the plumber, who's making, 130,000, he's less than just because he doesn't have, a corporate, office, suit and tie type of job. He's blue collar, he's working with his hands, he deserves the same type of respect. But you know what? I think what it boils down to is that, if these women truly are disillusioned, the only way they're going to learn is by the men, if this is what the men want to do, it's like, you know what? I don't fall into that category, and I'm not going to subject myself to that. And at some point, these women have to be like, okay, well, high value, that just means he's making a lot of money. He may not have a personality, they got to think a little bit further, in the quality of this high value man that they're talking about. What makes him a high value man?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
a lot of people are just taking in what they're hearing was repetitive and like, okay, that's it. Let me go for that. That's another thing.
yeah, because people are learning from a bunch of single people who are also looking for their high value man or their like. I mean, honestly, if you think about it, right, the majority of people who are out there trying to tell people what they should and shouldn't want in a mate don't have a mate. So how are they authorities on the subject, right? Because they can't say that I got that kind of mate and here's all the benefits of it for me and here's why I'm so happy. So if you want the life I have, then come do this. The majority are saying I don't have what I want yet, but I'm telling you, you shouldn't settle for this. And yes, all of that is settling, right? You should hold out for the thing that I say I'm holding out for, but like, why? They have no authority to tell you that you getting that thing actually leads to any of the things that they say it will, right? That's their
Mm-hmm.
hopes and dreams. They hope and dream, just like you're hoping and dreaming, right? They're hoping and dreaming that if they get that thing, it's going to be lead them to this, right? And 99.9% of the times it is not, because reality, right? The reality of the situation is this, okay? The reality of the situation is that in general, actually most men don't even want this, so it's very strange to hear it repeated a lot in the manosphere, but in general, right, relationships are not a woman comes in and then when she gets married, now she stops talking and she bows and she says yes sir, master sir, and whatever he says she says yes of course, and she runs and gets some sandwiches and walks around barefoot and pregnant otherwise and just obeys his every command, right? That is not a marriage. That's not a relationship. It's not a marriage. Nobody wants that, right?
Pregnant?
Exactly, right? No, but see, the thing is, right? Yeah. See, did you want that, She? Did you want that from a wife?
No.
You want that sandwich?
I wanted to. I always use the term understanding because these guys so always want submissive woman, and I'm like, submissive what? I'm like, what do you mean submissive? Well, she needs to cook and clean. I said, okay, she cooks and clean. Art and Style, he talked about one time where he said the women give you everything that you want. The guy was like, well, no woman's gonna never do that. He said, no, you're not understanding. These women, they're gonna do everything you want them to do. They're gonna cook, clean, anything on your checklist. They're gonna do it. Now, what are you gonna do?
Exactly.
What did
Deer
he
to the
say?
headlight. Deer to the headlight. They
Cricket
referred
like
to the other guy. Hey, let him go first. And I'm
Mm,
laughing because it was at the
mm,
time when my phone. It's a thing with StreamYard. Sometimes you let you get on, sometimes it don't. And I was
Okay.
going crazy. So the next day I jumped on, and Art had another live, and I was like, Art, I was begging to get
mm-hmm,
up there. I was like, I wanted to get up there and tell you. I'm like, half of these guys, they get what they want. They don't know. They've been in this echo chamber for so long, arguing
mm-hmm.
about what they want. And when they get it, they don't know how to keep it or even don't even know how to deal with what they got. You
right.
know?
I believe
Right.
that what ends up happening is they have it and then they're looking for the next problem. Okay, well, yeah, she did all that, but yeah, but she didn't do that. Yeah, see, she didn't do that. Oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's the reason why she ain't no good. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
And
she
it's
didn't take the crust off
unfortunately
my bread.
right. She's supposed to have done that. See, now I gotta get rid
Mm-hmm.
of her. These women ain't
Mm-hmm.
right, or whatever. So that is unfortunate. The programming is so flawed that it just have everyone brain just no one's thinking for themselves, you know?
No. No, and part of that too, right, is that what they don't understand, and trust me, if anyone's listened to my material, you know I am very anti-feminist, especially third wave feminism, third and fourth wave. But now, with that being said, here's the thing: when the women say submit to what, right? I actually agree with that statement because it's a valid question. And if you dismiss it as an invalid question, it's because you don't understand what submission is, because submission is submitting to someone's leadership. So where are you leading to? If you say you can't figure that out until after you've gotten a woman, then you don't understand leadership, because you
Right.
can't lead anyone until you're leading yourself, which means you should already be going in a direction, right? And then you don't go and interview women and see what they put on the table and then try to build it. No, what you do is you say, hey, listen, here's my 1 year, 5 year, 10 year plan. This is where I'm going. This is what I want and need. Can you work with that? As in, does that work for you or not? If it doesn't work for her, she can't submit to you. It's very simple. If it does, she can. Boom, there you go. Now you guys are in the courting process where you're trying to figure out if this could be for life. But see, a lot of people don't understand that because they've actually never been in a position to lead anyone. They really
And
haven't.
and let me ask you this: have you seen a meeting and greeting like this? Hey, how you doing? All right. What's your name? Lisa. Okay, Lisa, I need you to submit to me. Huh?
It's like, wait a minute, rewind. What is your name is what?
So, how is that conversation even in the beginning? I mean, isn't that something where
Yeah,
you
where does that come up?
meet and then if you doing pretty well and you want to move to the next step and you could see this woman in your life,
Mhm.
then okay, well, you know what? I'm going to go to the next step, whatever that is. If that's dating exclusively, okay, you do that. You see things are working. Okay, then you go to the next step. Okay, let me get her a ring or whatever. Okay, so why does that term even have to come up? That's why I'm,
Mhm.
I'm not understanding that. When people say they won't submit, I'm like, what do you mean? Because that's not something you just walk up to a
A
person when you
person and
first meet them.
just throw
Right.
it out there. Are you submitting or what? It's like, what?
Mhm.
Excuse me? You're hello? It doesn't make any sense. My thing is when that whole stupid discussion started with they won't submit. Who is they and who won't they submit to? Who are you trying to get to submit to you? A random strange woman. I can understand why she probably won't submit to you, but your baby mama who you got 7 kids with, she's not submitting to you. What's going on there?
Right.
Let's talk about that. Something's going on in that situation. So no, it's not just women won't submit. I will not follow a fool.
No.
Women don't want to be in charge of every damn thing. Sometimes, you know what?
No.
I need to rest my brain and you need to be in charge of something and you need to figure it out. I don't want to figure out every damn thing. Women
Mhm.
don't, contrary to what you think, women don't want to do that.
No.
So you have to figure it out. So what are you gonna do? And believe you me, she'll let you figure it out. But at some point, it's going to register with her that I'm not about to be following a fool. I'm not about to walk in the middle of oncoming traffic for no
Mhm.
damn body. So where are we going? Where the hell are we?
Right.
Yeah, that
Yep.
makes sense that she would question it if she see the light is red and you say let's walk against traffic. Wait a minute now, what's going on here? I
Mhm.
don't know. No, I'm cautious. I'm sorry. You be careful though. Watch out for that.
Mhm.
Oh, it's too late, darn. 911.
Hey, Char, that conversation would have went like this. She would have said, "Hi, my name's Lisa," and he was like, "Me, man, now submit."
Mhm. Right.
'Cause
Like.
I'm like, it's an action. Because my thing is this: I knew people back in the day, they would generally talk to somebody, and the girl would like, "Do you love me?" And most of the guys I know, they'd be like, "Yeah, I love you. Yeah." I mean, then you go back and say, "Man, you told that girl you love her on the first date." Love is just a word, you know.
Right.
And the thing
Yeah.
about it is the action, shows if she's going to submit. If you guys going out and constantly having talks, because most men that I've always talked to, they never really just have a conversation like this whole what if moment. If me and you, I talk about my wife all the time before we got married, even now until we married. Like, what'll happen if we break up? Get a divorce? Or am I
Mhm.
gonna get the kids? How are we gonna ration things? Are you gonna try to put me on child support? All this stuff. generally just don't have a conversation. You know, people don't talk no more. They just, well, it's normal. We just it's supposed to always go like this. Like, what is
Yep.
this? Whatever. No. Use
Yeah.
words.
hmm Yeah, because what they don't understand, right? So when we're talking about submission and leadership, a woman does, again, just like the whole premise was ridiculous, right? Woman doesn't walk up to a man and go, "Hey, you're 6 feet tall and kind of alpha looking. Lead me." Right? Like, that doesn't happen. No one is
Right.
ever going to do that, right? Because it sounds asinine, because it is asinine, right? So therefore, men walking around and stomping and saying, "Submit to me, woman." It sounds ridiculous. And just like it sounds ridiculous when someone says that, when a man says, right, "Women won't let me lead." Well, if she
That
lets you
irritates
do anything,
anytime
right,
that irritates the hell out of me. She
because
won't
it's
let you.
hilarious. Yeah, right? Because if she's not going to let you do it, then that means that really she's the one who's leading you and letting you do something like you're 5 and you got permission today, right? Like,
Hear that?
so
She
it
won't
doesn't make
let me.
right. So therefore, that goes to show you a lot of people don't understand these words, what they mean. Like submission and leadership, these are things that happen internally. They're not things you ask for. They're not things you state explicitly, right? They're just things that happen, right? They are internal, subconscious. Well, not really subconscious. You're kind of conscious of it. Internal things that
Mhm.
happen, right? My heart, my soul, my whatever submits to my husband, which means ultimately, right, every decision I now make is like, okay, so what's not my, our game plan? What do we need to eat? Where are we heading? Right? What was that thing that he doesn't like and he hates about this and that? And he's because I'm always constantly considering that now. Why? Because now, right, that this is an internal thing. He didn't demand it. He's not stomping his foot, whatever. Right? Just like him leading
Mhm.
me. I didn't want. Listen, I'm lost. I need you to lead me from here until next week Thursday, because otherwise I don't know how I'm gonna get there. Right? Like, no. Right? Like, he does what he needs to do as the head leader of our family, and that's him leading. Right? Like, it's like just like men need respect, women need love. Right? Respect is not just a word. Love is not just a word, and it's definitely not something you should say and not actually do
Let's
the action of.
let's just
Right? Like,
ponder on that just for a tiny bit, Ruby. You say,
mhm,
women need love. I
mhm.
want the men to listen to that. Just listen. Women, all women really need is love.
Mhm. Yeah, it's
It's
in the
really,
Bible.
it's really just that simple. It's
Mm.
not this
No,
whole big old, manual that you have to go through. You don't have to
no.
buy anything for it. Women just need love.
Yep. It's in the same place of the Bible that y'all like to quote a lot about how the Bible says, "Oh, women have to submit to their husbands." It says in the Bible that women have to respect men. It's as old as biblical times. Right there, it says, right. It says, "Women, submit to your husbands. Men, love your wives." Why? Now that doesn't mean, right, that you know since I have to respect men, men don't have to respect me. And since men have to love me, I don't have to love them back. No, it's just telling you a priority. If men are not respected in a relationship, they will not function properly no matter what. If women are not loved in a relationship, they will not function properly no matter what. It's just the way it is. Those are the two number one prime things that we need as people, and that's what makes us different as a gender. I still need, well, I'm not going to use me as an example. I'm a little different, but women still need respect too, right? But if you love someone, you will respect them, because to not respect them would hurt them. And you don't want to hurt someone that you love. You don't want to insult someone that you love. You don't want to, you know what I mean? There's a whole bunch of things you don't want to do to someone you love, right?
Right.
And if I respect you, right, all of these actions that I do in respect of you, right, they're very similar to what I would do when I love you, right? So we have to look at this and say, like, hey, listen, it's a two-way street, but it's really basic stuff. And that's why I said at the beginning, people keep making all these lists of things, and it's all cover bullshit, because they can't just say I have zero standards and yet no one's checking for me anyway. They can't say that, right? But
That's
that's really what it is.
I want to, when you it just came to me, you know, as women, a lot of times we used to have these lists. Now the men are having lists. Now that I think
Yes.
about it,
Mm-hmm.
wow, isn't that something?
that's
Wow.
true.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
Long
because I
lists.
yeah, because I was gonna say also back to like arranged marriages. You know,
Uh-huh.
a lot of those marriages they never just generally come in loving each other. They grow to love each other because of the respect. You know, if you got respect
Mhm.
for
Yes.
me enough that I'm coming into this relationship on an arranged marriage that me, you never seen each other, or we kind of had, certain contact or something like that within the family. But the whole point, we're coming together, joining families, but ultimately you give me respect, I give you respect, and that's how the relationship grows. And over
Mm-hmm.
time you might fall in love with that person, but if not, ultimately as family and culture they stay together, and
Mm-hmm.
just live. you know
Right.
it,
Yep.
the being respectful, it goes a long way. There's certain things, like I tell, guys, I'm not gonna mess with a woman that if I say, hey man, calm that down, don't do that, and she's like, you yelling at a guy, we get into a car accident and or something goes on, and I'm telling you, calm down, it's okay, let me handle this, and she's going off the handle. Next thing you know, the guy pulls a gun. Baby, he got a gun. What we gonna do? No, it's a little bit too late for that. You don't say
Right.
it too much now. And
Mm-hmm.
same thing applies for the man. You know, when the situation, when a woman's like, oh baby, let me show you this and help you with this, I'm the man, I got it. The next thing you know, he messes up and like, oh man, and she just over there looking like, I tried to tell you, you didn't want to
Yep.
listen. It's that hard-headedness to where men, we try to learn everything and be well endowed in certain things, but it's certain things a woman might do better than you. Like my wife, she does finance, we both do the bills at time. you know there's no reason for me not trust her with the bills. Every bill, all the bills get paid. If it comes
Mm-hmm.
a time when she can't pay the bills and she's missing bills, we're about to get stuff cut off, then initially I just take on that responsibility. Same thing applies to me. If I'm paying bills and I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, initially she's
Right.
gonna step in and do the same. See, we gotta
Mm-hmm.
work as a team. A lot of guys, you want to take on everything and then you want to have issue over time, like, man, I do everything for her, but you took on that responsibility to say, I'm the leader, I'm the king. No, even with the
Mm-hmm.
finances, when it comes down to the money, I hear a lot of guys, talking about, you know the woman giving the paycheck, and that's a good thing. If a woman's bad with finance, okay, that might be a good thing, benefit y'all. But the point of it is, if you come to an understanding to where, these things need to get paid, either we're gonna split the bills
Mhm.
to, work it out that way because you get paid this way, I get paid this way. Well, just come to an understanding. If you want to boss hog the relationship and just say, I'm doing all this and you don't have no say so, most women only going to do it for so long, because if they don't see the benefit in it, and when the man has an issue like, baby, we've been doing this for 20 years and I've hated for 20 years, but you never got my opinion. It's only so much a person's going to take. Even with a man who tries to make a woman happy by doing everything that she wants, and then at one day he just snaps and say, I'm not going to do it no more. Well, you've been doing it for 20 years. Well, it ends now. you
Mhm.
know and we see it throughout social media, even with Tyler Perry and his movies, all this stuff, to the back and forward. If you're not communicating with each other, it's just going to end in chaos.
Exactly. Communication is the key.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree with that. And I don't think that, anybody should stay accepting, or tolerating anyone's BS, for any extended amount of time. The amount of time you spend on it, that's individual to each person. But, when time is up. And it's like, okay, I don't want to do this no more. And, I don't need to explain it. I just don't want to do it anymore. And that's that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's why I mean that's why today a lot of people are wary of marriage. And when I say people, because we know why men are in the manosphere, right? But when I say people, I mean women. They're wary of marriage because they might not have it with their mothers or their grandmothers, but they have it in their family. And when they've seen it in their family, they didn't like what they saw. And they do actually take marriage very seriously. And they know that they're kind of stuck and you're gonna be stuck with someone, and you're gonna have to put up with all the ain't shitness and da 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 because again, there's just so much one way directional conversation where people are constantly talking about what they deserve, what they expect, what they need, what they should get. And there's no discussion back about what they're going to be giving to receive that. And when they do have the discussion, I hear a lot of, well, I paid the bills and I'll do this. And if we fail, it'll fall on me. Yeah, but what about the rest of the day? Right? Like, what about the rest of our lives? What about everything else? Because, women are intuitive in thinking about relationships between people. So we understand that, there's a whole 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? 52 weeks a year for like 70 years we're talking about here, right? So like again, do we like each other? How much love and respect are you going to show me? Do you think that conversation with me is important? Do you think enjoying time with me is important? Am I going to just be a piece of like arm candy to you, or I'm basically just a live-in maid or a live-in wop, as we had said the other week? You know, one way or the other, right? Like, women don't want to sign up for that. There was a time where, yeah, they kind of had to, because you want an income in a bank account, you kind of need a husband. But now, like, well, no, I don't need someone to pay bills because I can pay bills, right? Because I work and I pay my own bills and I got my own apartment and all my fancy stuff and credit cards, so I can pay my bills. So I'm not looking for a man who can just pay my bills because I can pay bills. I'm looking for a partner in life. And then you hear that partner, or as she said, that team, that dirty, nasty four-letter T word, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah, and suddenly it's like, oh my God, well, you're a
Yeah.
feminist and you're this and you're that and blah blah blah, and you want to wear the pants, and there's all these implications to the word team these
Team.
days,
Yeah.
right? And team doesn't denote that your maybe even your traditional gender role has changed. It's just about the concept that you are working together in a household where one of you's yin, the other one's yang, and together you're coming together and making a 100% whole, right? I take half the responsibility, you're taking half the responsibility. If you lived alone, you'd have to take 100% of it, right? But I got my role, you got your role, and instead of having to fulfill all of that now, you got someone else to bear that burden with you. But like, people don't see it that way. And it's because honestly, we don't have enough of it. We really don't have enough of marriage and long-term commitment relationships and people who are commitment minded in our community anymore.
A
Is
lot of
that
people
what
get
it is? We don't see it enough.
Mm-hmm.
well.
I
A
think
lot of
so.
people get caught up in the wordplay, it, and when it comes down to it, you know, far as the relationship, whether it be team, marriage, leader, whatever thing, I look at the action of everything. You can tell me anything. Like I say back with love, you can tell me anything, but what you show me, how we move a certain way, that's how I know you're serious about the relationship. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because there's many instances there, men and women, they go through situations where they think that I can get money over on this guy, or I can, this guy is financially can take care of me. But there's gonna come a time where this person is not gonna be in a situation to make money. You know, there was
Mm-hmm.
one of the older guys I know. His wife ended up hurting herself and messing up her back and messing up her leg where she couldn't even get up and cook. This guy started cooking and she was mad because she was like, I've been married to this guy for 20 years and he cooks so good. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what the world? Like, what's going on? Like, because she never knew. Like, she
Right.
always cooked for him because, they're older, like I think in their 60s. So, back then, that's how the woman was, raised. The woman cooks while the man goes and pays the bills and, does things around the house and things. And when
Mm-hmm.
it was, a situation where he had to, fend for himself or mostly every night cook for both of them, it was a like found freedom for her, but at a sense she was kind of upset that all these years he knew how to cook like generally good. Because when I came over, she would always say, "Yeah, I didn't even know this guy cooks good." And even when she healed up, she was to the extent like, I don't even know if I want to go back in the kitchen. Like the meals have been so good. Like I'm going to a restaurant.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they worked that situation out. You know.
There you go. They
Mhm.
worked it out.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing too, right? Like balance there, because like I don't know if y'all have heard of it, right? It's called conversion disorder, and it's a very real thing that happens. And so what will happen is basically your brain will tell you, and it's being dead ass serious, that you're paralyzed from the waist down. There's no physiological cause, but you are actually paralyzed. You literally can't use your legs. If someone were to take you and throw you out of your wheelchair into a pool, you will drown if someone doesn't save you. Like you are paralyzed. But there's no physical cause. The cause is psychological. Or you could be blind, or a bunch of things with no physical cause. This is called conversion disorder. And normally it's from stress, and normally it's from the kind of stress where a bulk of some type of responsibility is on this person. They never get a break, right? They never get a helping hand from the family, from friends, loved ones, anyone. No one is helping. And so it's like their brain literally shuts some part of them down to force them to stop before they psychologically break altogether, and it forces everyone in their circle they've been helping for so long to help them. Now, I'm not saying this about this woman. I'm saying that this happens because people don't understand the kind of weight and burden it can be on someone to put all of the housework on one person. All of the whatever's happening inside, well, that's all on the wife. And financially, all of that's on the husband. Like, and nobody, you don't eat in between. So that means if his hours get shorter, now he's working 3 separate jobs, we're sleeping 2 hours a day, right? Trying to keep a roof over everyone's head when she could just get a job too. But no, women don't work, right? And then likewise, like, man, she hasn't slept in about 3 days, but no, she's got to watch the baby. She's got to do this, she got to do that, because it's all women's work, right? When you start doing that, like, it can be such a crazy stress that your brain will literally shut your body down. So that way you literally cannot help anymore. And it forces everyone else to pitch in. And normally they figure this out through, counseling. And then you go through counseling to literally regain, and then rehab to literally regain your ability to walk, and whatever. And it can take years. Sometimes it can take decades. And so, I'm saying all of that to say that, this idea of things being a team, this is not a newfangled feminism idea that blah, blah, blah. It's always kind of been this way. We just didn't realize it, right? Because people did what they were happiest with in the home, right? They didn't discuss it. They didn't make big deals about it. And you saw it and you thought, okay, well, they're old school and traditional because they've been married for 50 years. And you have no idea what's happening inside of their marriage, behind the closed doors and whatnot. You just made a lot of assumptions, and you don't realize in order for them to have stayed happy and functional for this long, they each have their roles. But if one of them gets the flu, if one of them gets hurt, if one of them gets sick, if one of them something, the other one is more than willing to jump in there and pick up that slack, right? Give you a, like she was saying, I'll give you a break. I know you've been cooking some great meals. Baby, sit down. I'll cook today, right? Or, man, I see my wife, she's had a really rough week. You know what? This is dirty. Let me clean this up for her. So she's gonna walk in the room and see it's clean, right? That shouldn't be like a thing where it's like, oh my God, I can't believe he did that. That's the women's job. Oh, men shouldn't have to cook. That's a women's job. Like, before you got married, or before you're with a woman, right? You live with your parents, and then hopefully you're an adult, so you move into a place of your own. So shouldn't you be able to cook and clean? Like, didn't you have to do that for yourself for a time until you met a woman to marry? Like,
Mhm.
I don't understand. Why do you think that's not your problem?
It
You had
already
to feed
existed
yourself.
before you met her. It already existed before you met her.
Mhm. Right. right? But no, we don't want to accept these things, right? Just like with women in the, oh, well, women will die without us. They need us to pay the bills. Well, not really, because again, she's grown. So before she met you, she was living with her parents, and then she moved out by herself into an apartment where she paid all of her own bills,
By herself.
right? By herself. Maybe she messed up her credit and then fixed it by herself and got herself some credit cards, started building credit again. Oh, she got a car. She's almost done paying that off now. She's paying back her student loans. It seems to me like women these days know how to earn money and pay bills. So, like we have to recognize we're in a different era, right? And
Yeah,
that era
it's like cut it
means,
out. It's like cut it out,
yeah, right? Like if we could, half of these guys, if they could just recognize that we are in a completely different era, right? And so that means the rules and definitions are a little bit different. Not as a man, you need respect. Of course you do. And you should get respect. And I've said this before on panels. I've said, listen, to me, the way I was raised, is that men are the head of a household and you give a certain kind of deference to men in general. But the point is with your husband is you give your husband has that deference and that respect regardless of how much money he makes or if he makes no money at all. Men just get that type of position regardless of if they make the most money or not or whatever. I get a lot of pushback from both men and women. But my argument always goes, okay, so your man's the breadwinner, or you as a man, you're a breadwinner. Then you fall at work, you break your neck. Now you can't make any income anymore. Do you think you deserve respect? Or do now your wife wears the pants and you don't get a say anymore because you can no longer bring in the money?
Wow.
Or do you think you deserve, as a man, to still get that love and that respect? You injured yourself taking care of your family. So shouldn't you still get the exact same position in your head of household because you still think like a man? You still think just like you. You still have all the same ability, right? And that's where people, girl, that's exactly what I was going to say. And that's where people go to crickets. They don't answer
Yeah,
and then they just move on because they can't answer it.
yeah. I mean, and the bad part is with you, Ruby, and all the ladies on the panel. You
Mhm.
grew up in the era of actual women. These younger girls, this whole bad culture, WAP culture, all this stuff has turned a lot of women to a totally different monster. In which that's why I told my wife, I said, I couldn't have never dealt with a woman right now to where it's like a lot of these women, it's just rough just even thinking about, trying to pick a wife right now. Like I would literally have to go get me an older woman. I mean, if I really want to get married, either I get an older woman or just don't get married at all in the prince. And then the point of me wanting kids, I can't deal with an older woman, because I mean, the whole happiness thing, it to people sometimes is overrated to me, but it's like a lot of young men, they dealing with the struggle of either I choose this type of woman or I choose nobody, and
Mhm.
that's the biggest issue with a lot of the young men. My son, he's what, 21, 20, and he's struggling with that too. He mostly works, goes to school. He's not even really dating as much. He might talk to little friends here and there, but ultimately, he's not in a situation of trying to find something serious. And even
Mhm.
as the time as he's getting older, he's like, a lot of these girls are just crazy. They always want money. This whole dating thing, they want to go on dates like, it's candy, right? And they don't want to be exclusive because the whole commitment thing, that a lot of these younger girls think that being committed and being tied down where they want to be free, but then, when they older years, that, well, I want to get married now. That's, you just don't turn that on and off like that, you know.
Mm. But you know what
And,
though,
and
she I want to give you a little bit of pushback because here's the thing. People talk about like say a me or a Vonda like we don't exist anymore. But we weren't necessarily the majority during our time either. So what it comes down to is the difference between then and now, right? As I was like a teenager before there was Tinder and all this bullshit. first of all.
Mhm.
And second of all, I was a teenager before there was Instagram filters and Facebook filters and auto tune and all of this bullshit. Third, before Insta thoughts, right? Fourth, before the advent of these crazy kinds of makeup that you could literally transform yourself into another human being in 10 minutes flat. So, what used to be valued actually was natural beauty. Sure, you saw those women. Sure, you might sleep with those women, right? But you were actually looking for a marriage minded kind of woman. Now, what men are doing is they're looking for all of what I just described and hoping that they're marriageable, right? So you look for the woman who looks like that, and then you're shocked when she's not a wife. But like she's showing you her priority isn't in being a wife. She's telling you what she wants. What she wants is social validation, social status, social class, right? She's showing you that, hey, listen, I want to make money off of my youth and looks while I can, right? She's telling you all of this because you met her on her OnlyFans. So what did you think was going to happen, right? There's a whole bunch of women who are out there right now who aren't doing any of that, who want husbands, right? Who want traditional lives. And you know what? They often don't even get noticed anymore because they aren't the ones who are looking the hottest inside this coffee shop, even though, of course, the one who's the hottest is normally the fakest, right? With the most makeup, with the most enhancements, with the most fake hair, right? She's the one who gets all, those are the ones who get all the attention. And the chick who's just wearing her natural face and her natural hair and some clothes that aren't too scandalous, you know, she's got a respectable body on her, but you know, she's not the next Insta thought. She's not getting noticed. And so, you know, I think that there is an issue with priorities and you have to choose. I think you said this earlier. You have to choose. Do you want the hottest chick from the internet or do you want a wife? Because those are normally two people, women who are in completely different places from each other.
Yeah, and the crazy part, I
Mhm.
always push this issue too. You know, you got the rate of 51% of men that are not married with kids. The 51% of them, no kids, no marriage. You got about 36% of the men that are married with kids. So that leaves a total of less than 15% of the men that are out here bouncing around, you know, willy nilly doing a thing in the street. But then on the reverse end, you have that same low number with respectable women that are carrying themselves in high regards, but men are not even dealing with those women because they're dealing with
Mm-hmm.
the other, you know, 85% of the women that want to be IG models and do all these other things. So, you
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like the whole melting pot theory to where all the good women that respectable that want to get married, they're saving themselves. They're either, you know, doing what they, you know, need to do, carrying themselves to get a man. You know, a lot of those women go to those sites because the men that are out here are not even dealing with them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if she looks presentable, a guy be like, ah, she average, you know, my friend's not gonna like her. But then they'll be on the internet scrolling like, oh, she bad. She bad. You know, this whole I think swipe left or swipe right, whatever. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
really? You know, just like I was listening to a guy who was saying, what happened to the whole standard of a man walking up on a woman and be like, you look good. You want to go on a date? You know, you want to get coffee or something, or we can meet this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is all on the gram and everything else now. And I'm like, if you find a woman in that environment, you can't respect yourself if she goes out and does something foul because that's how you met her. That's how you dealt
Right.
with her. That's how you know, ultimately, you know, made a successful relationship off a woman in that environment. If she said, well, you know, I'm an IG model, it was the lady who came down to Atlanta, got stuck, and she did a GoFundMe to go back to New York for $1,300. Ultimately, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, she raised like 1,600, and then they cut her GoFundMe off. Like she
Mm-hmm.
was begging for money to go back up, but she came down to Atlanta from New York with $400, and she was gonna get a check from her unemployment. Why did you even come down to Atlanta and you didn't have no job? You was getting an unemployment check. Nine times out of ten, she didn't go by herself,
Mm-hmm.
and she started a GoFundMe, got the money, obviously went back. But I'm like, that's what we have to deal with. And a lot of those guys were, probably hitting her up. Like, I just put something on your GoFundMe. What's your name and number? Probably. They were hitting on her, knowing that this lady was running the scam from the jump. And everybody was
Hey.
teasing her, doing all that stuff. And I'm like, why are we giving money to people that we know are scamming?
Hey, that's that decision. But hey, now Sheed, you found us. Don't lose us. Lock us
Right.
in. Like,
I'm
share,
locked.
subscribe. Tell a friend. Tell them have an email, JustAskChar@gmail.com, and make sure you sing that sound bite for me and send it to me, because I'm not gonna let that go. I'm gonna remember.
Yes.
I got you. I got you. I be killing a lot of guys in the area, and they be like, "Oh, but she about to say it. Somebody said feelings."
And we're here tomorrow as well for the article reactions, and that'll be at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Yep.
And I'll play the commercial on the way out. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Hope you guys, if you know of anyone, please pass the information on to them for the suicide number. Check on your friends and family. It is a serious thing. And check us out for article reactions. Be safe. If you don't come back tomorrow, don't forget to spring forward. All right? And until then, peace.
Cheers, y'all.
Hey, folks, it's your nighttime, it's your right time DJ Music. Make sure you join Char Willie each and every Saturday, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, for article reaction, right here on your local YouTube channel. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe to Article Reaction.